Good afternoon, everyone. I am so pleased to welcome you to the session, World in Numbers, Jobs and Tasks. I'm Neela Richardson. I'm Chief Economist of ADP and Head of ADP Research. And joining me today is Andrew Un. We are both going to provide some thoughts and delve into the latest Future of Jobs report. Now, Andrew doesn't need an introduction. He is founder of Deep Learning AI Inc., and I'm so pleased to be able to do this session with you. So without further ado, let's think and let's talk about the world of work over the next 5 years. So in this era, in this new wave, we're seeing technology drive the future of work. And not just technology, demographic change, meta trends, creating and destroying some jobs. But over time, we're seeing not just job creation, but a change in the skill set. In fact, according to the Future of Jobs report, which surveyed 1,000 global employers and representing 14 million workers in 22 industries in over 50 countries, we're seeing that 2/5 of core skills will change over the next 5 years. That's a tremendous amount of change, but it's not the fastest our skill sets have changed. In fact, the pandemic ushered in even faster change, but this is more sustainable. It's not just about pandemic, it's about technology and these other meta trends that will be ushering in a new way of working in the world. And so when we think about the 5 key drivers of the labor market, it starts with that first one, technological change, and the broad access to the digital environment, which allows generative platforms like AI to take root in the workforce. The second trend, the green transition, with over half of global employers saying that they're making key investments in lowering their carbon emissions. The third trend, geographic fragmentation. This is really important when you think about the supply chain and trade. The fourth trend, this one is the one that captures my attention because what we're seeing is 2 different trends at once. These demographic shifts that are hitting higher income countries and leading to a wave of retirements as the workforce ages is happening at the same time that in lower income countries, there has been a growth spurt in the prime age worker and how the world deals with this new globalization, the globalization of people, services, as well as trade and goods will define growth for the next 5 years. And then this final trend, economic uncertainty, it's never gone. It's always a part of how the world does business. But in a more complex world, that uncertainty grows, especially when you're thinking about the first mega trend, technological change. And this leads to, again, a dichotomy in the growth that we're seeing in terms of where the jobs are coming. Now, the first set of jobs in terms of the largest employment changes happen in those infrastructure jobs, those jobs on the front line of creating local economies. So you're going to see an explosion of growth for farmers and laborers in agriculture, but also in delivery trucks and services, getting those goods to the locations that are needed. Of course, now technology is part of a country's infrastructure, even for lower income countries. So growth in software and application developers. Also growth in construction workers and building that infrastructure, not just residential, but data centers to support that growth in technology. And let's not forget retail. As the middle class grows, so does the consumer base, and so does the growth in shopkeepers. But also the fastest growing jobs, not necessarily the largest in employment, but the fastest in rate. Big data specialists, all tied to the technology related roles, financial tech engineers, AI and machine learning specialists, software application developers, and let's not forget about data security. Underneath all of this is the importance of data security in amplifying all the data and technology needs of the future. So it's a combination when you think about the 5 mega trends that are driving the labor force over the next 5 years. It's a combination of hard skills and soft skills. It's a combination of people and tech. The global workforce doesn't just want technology, they also need a skilled workforce who can innovate, who can think creatively, and also work collaboratively. And so here are the key skills that global employers are saying that they need. The first three are tech related, AI and big data skills. No surprise there if you're thinking about a technologically advanced future, technological literacy, networks, and cybersecurity. But think of the people skills also required, that human connection when it comes to resilience, flexibility, agility, the ability to think creatively, to be a lifelong learner. It's only through a skilled workforce where the promise and power of generative AI really amplifies the human condition and raises the standard of living for all. Next slide. And so in this world where you're seeing the need for skills and the skills opportunity, you must also realize that it's important that the workforce is upskilled and that it's upskilled in a way that meets the needs of the global business community. And those needs are really important when it comes to those who are left behind. The Future of Jobs report says that a segment leading to 120 million people may not receive the skills that they need to advance in the world. And we know that these skills are not widespread. The skills gap, there are in lower income countries. So there is a need to match where the workforce is growing with where the skills needs are. And that gap is critical to close in the future. So if we go to the next slide. ADP was so excited to partner with the World Economic Forum and really understanding the worker perspective so that we can think about how to close these skill gaps. And what we did is we matched worker sentiment with the employer sentiment from the Future of Jobs report. And what we have mapped out here for you is what workers find valuable and what employers find valuable. And let me give you the takeaway up front. They don't always match. So at ADP Research, not a big surprise. ADP Research, we actually surveyed the global workforce, 38,000 people in 34 economies around the world. And what we found is what workers really, really value is career advancement. So you can see there's alignment in that dark blue for employees and the turquoise color for employers when it comes to improving talent progression and promoting the skills process. There's also a lot of alignment not shown here in wages. Now, it's no surprise that workers want higher wages. Anyone surprised by that? No. But employers actually want to see wage growth too, because wage growth is tied to productivity, and they know that they need a productive workforce to operate in the new world. But there are also places of misalignment. And where we see those places is what workers value most coming out of the pandemic. Anyone want to wager a guess quickly? Flexibility. It's flexibility and the ability to maintain their own schedules. That's number one for the global workforce, but it's only number 8 for employers. Now, one of the things that I think is really beneficial coming out of the pandemic is that global employers recognize the importance of a healthy workforce to have a thriving business. And you see in their survey responses from the Future of Jobs report that the global employer base still cares about the worker. They still want to prioritize supporting employee health and well-being. The disconnect is that the workforce has kind of moved on from that. They only value that support from their employer at number 8. And so it's also not quite a surprise that if you're seeing, especially in higher income countries, a lot of workers reaching retirement age, that employers are very focused on this last place of disconnect, changes to pension plans that extend the retirement age. Not so important, or actually at the other end of the spectrum for employees. Next slide. So we wanted to focus on, at ADP Research, this gap between what the global employer base told World Economic Forum in terms of the future of work and what we see every day in terms of working with a global workforce. And so we went and surveyed, again, 38,000 workers in 34 countries and asked them, do you feel prepared to move your career over the next 3 years? Remember, career advancement was the one place of alignment that we elicited in this collaboration, but only 24% of the global workforce actually feel like they have the skills they need to advance their careers in the next 3 years. 24%. And if you dissect that to the 2/3 who have an advanced degree beyond high school, who have vocational training or a college degree or an advanced degree, that 24% moves up to 27%. So even for the most skilled of our workforce, they don't feel prepared in the next 3 years. That's a finding that people should circle. It has a big meaning for employers because only 17% feel strongly that their employers invest in the skills they need to advance. Here is the skills opportunity. Workers demand it, and there's a reason why employers should listen. Next slide. Now at ADP, we're not only able to elicit what workers feel and care about, we're actually able to measure it. We're able to measure the skills opportunity with this big data set that we have at ADP for US workers. And we found something remarkable when it comes to skills. We look at jobs through the lens of the Occupational Information Network, the ONET network, which defines different job zones from the lowest need for preparation all the way up to the highest. Think dishwasher, brain surgeon. And in that big range of job preparedness, we found that on average, a worker sees a 37% pay bump from going from one level of skills preparation to the next. 37% on average. So the gains from upskilling are enormous, but there's more to this. For men on average, they experience a 44% bump in wage gains, but for women, only 30%. And when we get to the most complex jobs, that skills advantage, that gap becomes even wider. Again, for the most skilled jobs, men see a 44% bump in higher medium wages, women, 15%. So there's a huge opportunity here to close that skills gap in gender, to close that skills gap when it comes to geography, to give workers what they want and need to be successful over the next 5 years. ADP research has found that workers who are upskilled, who feel like their employers invest in their skill set, do two things very, very well. They tend to be very loyal to their employer, and they tend to be very productive in their self-reporting of their work. And so if you want a happy, engaged workforce, one that thrives, one that innovates, and one that captures the amazing opportunity that we have in store with a technological boom, investment in skills is a requirement and a necessity. And to say more about that investment, I'm pleased to bring up to the stage Andrew, my co-panelist.
Thank you. Thanks, Nina. Can people hear me okay? All right. So I thought that was great data. And I feel like a lot of the drivers of long-term changes in workforce are really driven by technological change. I think human nature has stayed quite similar for a long time, but it's really technological change and maybe geopolitical changes that are driving a lot of these. So what I thought I'd do is to complement Nila's presentation with some observations of what Coursera and DeepLearning.ai and I work at different businesses are seeing on the ground with technological change, with a lens particularly on AI. So I know that for a lot of employees, maybe even some of us in this room, people are wondering, will AI take my job? And what we're seeing in many businesses is because of the power of AI, one of the most important skills for the current generation of workers, as well as for the next generation, is the ability to get computers to do exactly what you want it to do. Because with computers able to tackle more and more tasks, people in all walks of life and all types of job functions are able to use computers or AI to do what you want it to will be materially more powerful. So maybe some examples, just to bring this to life. On my team, I have a former journalist that just last week showed me code that he had written to scrape news feeds, to read RSS feeds, to highlight for him news articles that he should pay attention to and maybe cover. I have a finance person that puts together an app that monitors exchange rates in real time and sends her notifications so that she can better manage our global set of bank accounts with currency and different, various different currencies. And I think these are examples of people that are not software engineers, but have learned enough about AI and how to program in order to use computers to enhance the job functions. So in this next period of time, and I think I want to reflect on some things that I see as a technologist that may not yet show up in today's data, but I think will be driven by upcoming technology. I think that in the future, AI won't take people's jobs, but people that know AI will take the jobs of people that don't. And the other important trend is employee productivity will rise, I think in a fairly spectacular way if you empower them with AI tools. I know some of you may have children. If you do, my advice is get them to learn to code because for the foreseeable future, people with a deep understanding of technology and AI will be able to use computers much more effectively, whatever job profession they end up doing. Beyond this technology trend, what we're also seeing at Coursera and at DeepLearning.ai is that this increased uncertainty, shift in job roles, shift in skills is also driving increased demand from both employers and employees for upskilling. One of the challenges of education is that the short-term impact is modest, the long-term impact is profound. And so it takes a certain company and individual culture to make that modest upfront investment to then deliver these sorts of life-changing and really game-changing results for the enterprises. And I think this inefficiency has caused society writ large to underinvest in everything from early childhood education to upskilling of adult workers. But we see a lot of individuals and businesses making these investments and then over some period of time enjoying very positive ROI, increased employee retention. And I think that it's been encouraging that the pressures driven by technological change are causing businesses to also invest more in this. So have a lot more to say about the nature of work, but I think this is a good time to upskill your workforces. Get everyone, frankly, I find that I think in the future, today, I can't imagine hiring a marketer or recruiter that doesn't know how to search the web, right? If you don't know how to use the internet, not hiring them, frankly. In the future, I think for a lot of these job roles, I will not hire a marketer that doesn't know how to code, and I will not hire a finance person that doesn't know how to get computers to do things for you. This isn't the moment of reality at this moment, but I think we will get to that world sooner than we think. But this is a good moment to prepare our workforces to learn AI and frankly, get people to learn to code. It will make them much more productive. I think with that, let me invite Neela back on. I think both of us will take questions together. Oh, thank you.
So you said that productivity will rise with AI, right? That in the coming time, when the AI comes and we're using AI, productivity should rise. But do you think that also brings a declination in the skills of people as well? Because right now I'm asking AI to make my Excel sheets, I'm asking AI to make my presentations, because of course it'll make my life easier, it'll make my life quick. But do you think that it is also declining my skills of doing the same thing? Of course.
The short answer, and I would love to
Mm.
hear Andrew's take on this, it's doing both. It's degrading some of your skills. Yes, some of those skills are being retired. And I think that's what's leading to the uncertainty in the workforce. But you're also gaining new skills hopefully you're learning to code.
Yeah.
Apparently that's important.
Yeah.
But in some ways, writing good prompts may be a new skill. You're teaching your generative AI that is producing these spreadsheets and these presentations how to do that. And that's a skill. So yeah, it's a creative destruction is what we say in economics. Skills are being created, skills are being destroyed, but overall the innovation and the productivity, the promise is that it increases.
Yeah. And I would say I think it's okay. By the way, I have no sense of direction. If you hang out with me and you ask, how do you go home? I have no idea, right? So I need my GPS. And I feel like um, to the extent that it degrades skills that we do need humans to know, that would be unfortunate. But to the extent that it degrades skills that we can just, permanently farm off to a computer, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
In computer science, we build on abstractions, or we stand on the shoulders of giants so that we can rise to greater heights ourselves. And it's okay if someone else has built a foundation for us to build on, because that's how collectively we as a society build more and more complex things.
It's what it means to be human. Just one more. I thought your question was a great opener because it reminds me of what skills won't go away. And that's the human skills, that connection, collaboration, creative thinking. In fact, if you have more time doing that and less time on your spreadsheets, that might be a good use of skills.
Hi.
Sorry.
Thank you. So I'm just curious what aspect of coding you think is important for humans to learn, because my understanding prior was that AI would take over a lot of the coding. And so that would actually be something that would be done more by AI than humans, and that coding was becoming more obsolete. So curious, what type of coding you think is important for humans to still do.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. So it turns out that AI assisted coding is incredibly helpful, and AI is taking over parts of coding. But what I'm seeing is that if you don't know how to code at all, then trying to get AI to code for you, you will almost always hit a wall that you cannot break through. Whereas people that know a little bit of coding will be able to break through and complete the task. So the data right now seems to show that AI assisted coding gives experts a massive productivity boost and gives novices a slight productivity boost. And but we're also seeing that with AI assisted coding, a little bit of knowledge now goes a long way. Maybe just to give you one more important trend. I know that a lot of large businesses represented here. If I look at coding, I want to distinguish maybe three buckets. There's building quick and dirty software prototypes to test an idea. There is writing enterprise-grade software, and then there's maintaining legacy code bases. It turns out for the latter two buckets, writing enterprise-grade software and maintaining legacy code bases, AI makes you, let's say 30 to 50% more efficient. I think McKinsey and others say that, which is great. 50% more efficient, fantastic. But the complete game changer is building quick and dirty prototypes just to test an idea, which for various technical reasons, I see not a 50% improvement, but more like a 10x improvement in productivity. And this means that a lot of individuals will be empowered to write those little apps to automate their own work. The last generation of robotic process automation, it's been difficult to implement, right? It's just as difficult. It hasn't lived up to the early hype. But I think the next gen of RPA means that if you have two people or even one person doing a workflow, it will be economical to automate that rather than you need like 100 people doing something before you can automate it. And this will be important for the corporate innovation process too, where we would empower a lot of people to just try ideas out very easily.
And the collaboration, the digital access to this technology, not just in one location, but around the world, is what enables this demographic transition of the prime age worker from the wealthier countries into the poorer countries that is going to be needed to keep growth sustained. So it's also not just the coding, but it's the digital platform that makes that coding shared with others. So a little goes a long way to underscore that point.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Is there another?
Oh.
Well, we'll give. Is there? Okay, then. Oh, here,
Oh, do it.
one here.
Go for it. Sure. Sorry.
Thank you for this presentation. Could you talk a little bit more about the findings and the delta between the flexibility that workers want and what employers are thinking?
Sure. So it is the right word is flexibility. I think a lot of times people confuse remote work and hybrid work with location. and that people want to stay at home and work in front of their televisions and, play with their dog and have snacks available. I mean, honestly, I do too. But what workers tell us is what they want is flexibility of their schedules, of their calendar, the autonomy that comes with work, not necessarily location. My mom's a teacher. It's a job you can't do remotely. 60% of jobs you can't do remotely. And we know that on-site work helps with collaboration. So it's about meeting that need as an employer, whether or not the position is mandated to be in the office or on the work site like a construction worker full time, but managing that with the schedule, giving people the autonomy around work that they enjoyed during the pandemic. How do you extend that? And how do you base that and root it in on-the-job training? Because that training is going to be important. It has to be delivered in a way that the global workforce can experience it. Whether it's spotty internet or spotty attention, some of that training needs to be on site. And we know that that training is vital to engagement, to loyalty, to productivity. So it's one of a pillar of how do you prepare a workforce. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the conditions that now employers have to be sensitive to.
That's cool. That's really great.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming to this. We're
Thank
around
you.
for a little bit longer. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you.